the MBDA. I'm Heather Mason. Thank you for being here. I am just so excited to see everyone. I think you'd agree with me. It's just nice to be out in person again, right, and see each other. It's been a trying year, and it's really awesome just to fist bump and give high fives and see each other face to face. So let this be a time where you're networking, you're opening yourself up, you're sharing what's happening in your store and learning from others, asking those tough questions and getting some great answers that allow you to go back, kind of like renewed, refreshed, and just ready for whatever's next. So we decided at the MBDA, Rochelle and I, to organize some panels throughout the show, just talking about specific topics and allowing retailers to ask questions. So I have a couple of notes, only like 12 pages or whatever. But throughout, if you have questions, we want this to be an open forum. So feel free. I have a couple, what I would say, friends of mine that are experts in this field to kind of take the questions and give their feedback, opinion, and advice to help you make better or more informed decisions, or just see another point of view, I guess, if you would. So I didn't read any of what I wrote, so we'll throw that one out. We're going to start with Colin Rice of Quivers. We also have Rob Gaige of Splitit. Thank you both for volunteering your time to come out here. Staying relevant has never been more important. The industry is just evolving at a rapid pace, and we have to meet customers wherever they are. Being customer-centric is something we've been talking about, and how to make sure that you're best optimized to meet customers online is super important. Digital innovation is at an all-time fast pace, and you really need to have your eye on it and react to it. So, as president of the MBDA, we are organizing opportunities weekly. We have our Monday Mingles, which if you haven't been on one, it's awesome. I don't say that because I'm leading it. It's really great. It's an opportunity to sit down and connect with retailers and say, hey, what's keeping you up at night? Or hey, what did you do last week that changed your business for the better? And learn from each other. So if you haven't been to one yet, they're virtual every Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Join us. You can register on the website. But anyway, in those opportunities, in those member networking meetings, I'm hearing, how can we do this? How can we better our website? How can we better how we interact with customers? And that is why we've invited you two up to kind of give some tips and feedback and advice. So let's start with basic intros, and we'll go from there. So Colton, can you give us more about yourself and your role at Quivers?
Hey everyone, Colton Rice, really excited to be here. I work for Quivers. We're an e-commerce platform for specialty brands and products. Quick background, worked for Competitive Cyclists for a number of years, running some websites there, merchandising, and doing email marketing over there. Worked in advertising, was a marketing person at Alta Ski Area for a little while, and now I'm the marketing manager here. It's a really cool platform that connects brands and retailers to help them work together to sell online and offline, and really excited to be here and talk with you about it.
Right, and you guys are over on the other side of our booth, right?
Yeah, we're over there by the exit. Next to the NBD. We're just behind NBDA's tent. You can see our Quivers tent there. Next to Experticity. So yeah, come on over.
I didn't know about your background in competitive and stuff like that. Awesome to have you on the panel. Thank you.
Happy to be here.
So let's go. So would you introduce yourself, Rob, and your role at Splitit and what Splitit is to everyone?
Absolutely. Hey everybody, I'm Rob Gaige. I run marketing for Splitit. Splitit is a buy now, pay later that focuses on large purchases. So anything above $800, helping to pay for those over time, afford them more, things like that. I've been in marketing my entire life, in the payment space my entire life. So if you have any questions about how to make payments easy, simple to use, compelling for your customers, that's what I'm here for. So really excited to be here. I want to hear your questions. I'm really excited to get to that. So.
Right. I'm going to come closer so we can reach the back. All right, so we saw consumers change drastically over the last 18 months, their behavior purchasing online. And now it looks like they're drifting back into brick and mortar stores. And I just want to know, obviously both of you are probably looking at consumer behavior. Any tips, any feedback, any advice of what you're seeing and where this will go? You can do this or...
So we obviously saw a huge surge in e-commerce last year during the pandemic when people couldn't get into stores in person. oddly enough, the bike industry was a really interesting corner because they were deemed essential business, so they were actually able to stay open. But we think a lot of people have been, more than ever, they're excited to be out and about and interact with people in person. And I think after we've gone through that pandemic, I think we have noticed that people really do crave that one-to-one interaction with experts in person, having a conversation with someone, bouncing ideas off of people, and just really talking to a human being and having connections with a store. And more than ever, we've seen more brands, like Backcountry just opened up a new store, like more and more brands are opening physical locations, and that's because I think people are really craving that interaction now. And we've seen a lot of these fulfillment options like pickup in store and things really erupt over the pandemic, and they're sticking around. People are really into that sort of fulfillment system. And yeah, I think physical retail is going nowhere, and we're just helping evolve how retailers can play in that space.
I love the idea of saying the Backcountry open the store. It's perfect. People are bringing it back to in person. Do you have anything to add, Rob?
Yeah. Just to echo some of that, I mean, some of the stats we've seen is that 75% of all sales will actually be in retail in 2025. So the myth of e-commerce taking over in-store is certainly that. The other thing I would just add to what you're saying is that we are seeing this merging of the e-commerce and the in-store experience, the phygital experience, if you will, where people are now going to be demanding and expecting things like how are reviews carried over from online into in-store, couponing, discounts, comparison shopping. We're seeing more and more stores say, how can I bring some of that online experience, the best of that online experience, and bring it into the in-store retail location so that I'm arming my salespeople. So the salespeople have the talking points to say, hey, you don't need to go back home, search for this online, do the comparison shop, and oh, by the way, lose the sale. I can tell you right now, these are the reviews, these are the discounts, these are the coupons. So people are trying to find ways to bring essentially that web experience into the in-store experience.
That was going to be my next question. Like, now we have this customer that went from, shopping online. Now they're in store. Their expectations are different. I mean, I don't even have to read this. But any tips here for, any tips how we meet this new customer?
I mean, a lot of what I just said. I mean, part of what we're doing at Splitit is we're looking at how do you take an e-commerce, let's just say our payments experience as an example, and how do you translate it into a sales tool for the associates, right? So that they can give people a buy now, pay later solution without them having to go back home and buy it online. It's things like equipping them with multimedia interfaces, as simple as iPads or sophisticated as, I think Farfetch has these web-enabled hangers, so they can actually literally, when someone takes a piece of clothing off of the hanger or off of the rack, they can actually track that and see how that changed their sales. So there's a lot of that technology out there, and you can start investing in small ways. Like I said, starting with iPads, starting with making your e-commerce directly connected to your retail location.
Yeah, and just to add to that, when people are shopping for a product, especially product like the ones you see here today, very specific, specialized product, we have very educated consumers, and we've talked to these people in person, whether it be at OR or different industries like music and instruments industries. It's all the same. Everyone starts their shopping experience online, and we know that that can be difficult for retailers. But what's amazing is there are ways, I'm not going to pitch, but there are ways that you as retailers can capture traffic, web traffic from the brands. They spend so much money on marketing to get the customers to their shops to their websites, and you as retailers have the ability to capture or piggyback off of that traffic and make sales because of the marketing that your manufacturers are doing. So what we think, and to echo this, convenience is key. You want to make it very easy to purchase, get whatever they want into their hands, and make it very easy to get it. Your solution definitely piggybacks off of that, but also making sure you capture the sale at the point of purchase intent. So what you don't want to do is get them to a website and then send them on some wild goose chase to try and locate whatever product they just did all their research on. They know what they want to buy. The key is to make it very easy to buy it.
All right, so now I'm thinking, thank you, this has been fantastic so far, but now I'm thinking there's so many options online. There's so many different retailers. There's so many different places to buy. How can we make ourselves stand out?
Yeah, it's a challenge, right? I mean, so if you think about it, over the past 18 months, consumers are now people who previously would have gone to a store and said, okay, I'm just going to trust what's there, look at the inventory that's there, have now been indoctrinated to this endless aisle that we have on the internet, where there's literally limitless choice, and they feel like they never have to settle for anything. And so when we talk to merchants, we give them really three pieces of advice or three things to focus on. The first is this concept of scarcity. This concept of creating ways in which you make your product feel like this is the last one, and if you don't buy it now, that you're going to lose it. I was talking to one of the retailers actually on the way in with Heather about how many of their bikes that they're selling right now are actually pre-sold, and that they'll have people come to the window and say, I want that bike, and he'll have to say, I'm sorry, it's already been sold, right? You guys are already playing with this concept of scarcity. How do you dial it up in your e-commerce presence? How do you add there's only 2 left, or 3 left, or 4 left, or this is a limited time offer, or it's a unique partnership and it would go away after that. So that's lesson number 1 is scarcity. The second lesson is seamlessness. It's the idea that you cannot and should not create any more speed bumps in that process. By the time they've hit the checkout, if you enter even a little bit of friction, you lose. And that friction could be creating an account before they buy something. It could be excessive couponing, right? Or even having the coupon field open, right? It makes them think, oh God, where's my coupon? I got to go on Google to find the coupon. And once Google has it, you're gone, right? So that's the second, it's a seamless experience. And then the third one is really what we were just talking about, is how are you leveraging the advantage you have, which is the retail stores that you have as well. And I love what these guys here at Quiver are doing, is the idea of helping you figure out how do you connect those dots, right? How do you take all the data that you're gathering online and then arm your in-store associates or sales associates to then leverage that data. So those would be my 3 lessons.
Yeah, great points. Just coming back to this whole convenience thing, consumers are very picky, and so, like you said, if there's any sort of roadblock, you're gonna dissuade them from purchasing from you. You know, from a brand perspective, you want to be able to I said this earlier, capture the purchase at the point of intent, and that can also translate to retailers. When a customer is looking for something very specific, they come to your store, and if it's not there, there's a good chance they're being exposed to other products and possibly buying something else, possibly on sale. That means losing margin. What's important is you capture the point, the sale when they want it, you get it at full price. We've got a question back there. Okay, cool, yeah, I was just iterating that instead of discounting or exposing customers to other competing products, just make sure that they're able to get exactly what they want when they want it. So that can mean optimizing your inventory, connecting your shop's inventory to brand's inventory even. So if it means they purchase it at your store, then the brand can even drop ship it or ship it to your store. Just make sure that it's super easy for them to get their product without being exposed to competing stuff.
Greg, before you hop in, who sells online here? Who's doing online sales? Okay,
Awesome.
So some people. Who's thinking about it? Okay. Who has a store that's brick and mortar and will not do online sales? Has no interest in it. All right. Okay. I just wanted to know, Greg, go.
So, my question is, it sounds also this kind of seamless transition between using online platforms and brick and mortar and kind of marrying those two things. But many of us here that are in the cycling industry understand that the cycling industry, from a retail standpoint, is not the same as other retail, right? So, specifically with bicycles, our margins are different than what you would make on normal markets, right? But the consumer does not know this. So from an e-marketing standpoint, is there room in this industry to be more transparent with the people that we are selling to so that they start to understand a little bit more the value in what it costs to have somebody build that bike, and then we have to house that bike, and then we have to pay somebody to sell that bike. So at the end of the day, our margins become really, really slim. Now there are other opportunities there, but I think oftentimes people that are coming from an e-market standpoint and are used to just getting what they want in that moment, and we've been training them to do that, when they come into a brick and mortar bike shop, one of the major issues is they think they're being scammed by us. They think a $3,000 bike and we're making $1,500 on that bike, and we're not, right? And I think the general consumer, especially now where we've got newer people in this space, we've had this boom of people that have come back to cycling or coming to cycling for the first time. How do we educate them to let them, without totally lifting the curtain, right? Because you can't necessarily do that. But how do we create some more transparency so that the average consumer has a better idea that, like, listen, we're trying to give you the best value that we possibly can, and here's why, sometimes it costs a little bit more in your brick and mortar store versus what you can do online. And both of them have potentially a symbiotic relationship, right? And I was just curious as to what your feelings were as far as that particular aspect is concerned. How do we reach out to those consumers? Better educate them about how our retail actually operates.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And I think the big thing there is making sure you are showing the customer your value as a shop. And if they can't see the fact that, look, we are putting your bike together, we're fitting it for you, we're making sure you're getting everything you need to get out on the trail. These are all the things that we are providing that buying online just isn't going to do. I think as a shop, it's really important to do those things very well. I don't think it makes a ton of sense to go around telling customers what your margins are on stuff, but I do think it's important that you show where else you are adding value to that transaction. And I know personally, as a bike consumer myself, with specialty products like bikes, going in and being hands-on with that stuff is where retailers can really shine. And there's other things like point of sale, like adding things to the purchase and buying a helmet and a pack and all this other stuff. It's a one-stop shop for everything that they need. I don't think a customer is going to be able to buy a bike and be able, or at least most, won't be able to build a bike when it comes to them in a box. So your value is huge, and that's why these specialty retailers are very, very relevant. So getting people into your shop and providing all that extra white glove, extra service at the end. Like, I know that the margin on bikes is super small. You make up for it in service, you make up for it in the other add-ons to that purchase. That's what I would do. Sorry?
You've added that value, right? Because you're bringing that value.
Yeah.
If somebody's spending $40 on a bike, and then you're asking them to buy shorts and a new saddle and handlebars and all these other things, well, very much it's going to improve their experience. There starts to become a barrier, a financial barrier for them, that makes that difficult.
Right.
I've seen opportunities where people say, all right, you know what, our bike is what it is, that's the cost, because we don't make a lot of margin there, but what we can do is if you're willing to buy the bike from us, then we can discount other things that we buy and create a value there.
Well, when they come back to you and are debating the price, is there somewhere else that they can get that bike cheaper? Because that seems like a problem with the brand. If they can find that bike somewhere else, then maybe there's a MAP policy violation or something like that. But they shouldn't be able to get that bike cheaper elsewhere. That's a problem. And I don't know what the solution to that would be other than to talk with the manufacturer and make sure that's not happening. They got to protect you as a wholesaler, first and foremost.
Just to add two things to help you. One is, I'm not so sure that you should be scared to share your margin. I mean, we see retailers like Everlane who've had tremendous success sharing the entire value chain and essentially pushing the fairness and fair trade, right? And for a certain segment of the population, especially as you get younger, move to younger millennial, Gen Z, incredibly important to them. So I would encourage you to test that in at least a limited fashion and see whether people buy into it. And then the second is I will say that's one of the reasons why buy now pay later helps, and right, is to help smooth out that payment so it's not this one huge chunk out of their pocketbook, but they could do that over 12 months. It makes it a little bit more palatable for them.
Just for transparency on my part, I don't come from the retail space. I come from the education space. So I'm the person that's adding services to bike shops to allow them to maximize their profits in that way. But these are questions that I think you guys are saying, and I value your opinions. Thank you.
Yeah, and we've been, I asked the question, how many of you sell online? Well, let's ask another question. How many of you educate online right now? How many of you have a YouTube video? That's the value prop. That's where I would love to see this conversation drift to is, if we position ourselves as retailers as being online, being relevant, being the source of knowledge, education, reaching our customers, that's customer centric, and that's where those customers who learn from you, they respect you, and hopefully they'll end up purchasing from you. So I'd like to see more of us start there. And there's a couple of retailers who do that extremely well, who have online and brick and mortar stores, and have positioned themselves very strongly as the leader of this content education. So if you're not in that area right now, I would highly suggest that as well. And just going back to being found locally, and I know locally Teddy was up here this morning giving a speech, and we talk about Trek just partnered with locally. How important, Colton, is it, in your opinion, for retailers to be using SEO, getting involved in searches so they're found in their local markets?
This is an interesting topic, and it's one that I differ with a little bit. I think everyone should have a website, and if you want to have an e-commerce site, that's great. But the problem with advertising locally is that the competition is huge, the costs are very high, so the cost of customer acquisition is going to be high, and it's really quite a lot of effort. And where I stand on that issue is the manufacturers that you carry in your store are already spending tons of money on marketing. They're very good at it, and they're getting customers to their site already to do research on that product. What you can do is take advantage. You don't have to be spending that marketing money on your own. Your company, your manufacturers have huge budgets. They are great at educating the customer. Now, you as a retailer can capitalize on those online orders and fulfill those orders for the brands, hyper-locally. If I go online and I want to purchase, well, we're at a lot of bikes around. If I want to purchase a bike, I go online, let's say Diamondback, why not? They're right there. I go to Diamondback website, I want to buy their release bike, and I buy it. Point of intent, capture the sale, and then I have the option at checkout, do I want to go pick it up at a local store? Absolutely, it's just down the street. You go pick it up, you get a customer in the store, you guys fulfill the order, make the sale. I think that's the easiest way to do it. You as a shop don't have to spend any money on advertising. You just got a sale from your brand's advertising. That's where I stand on that.
Rob, you have any thoughts on this?
No, I 1,000% agree. I think then it frees up your budget to build that local community, which is the thing that these large brands can't do, right? That you're the ones in the community, you're the ones who can build that environment and that relationship with people. So I agree. I would focus your dollars there instead of trying to compete with everybody else in search.
So, Rob, while you have the microphone, you were talking about the buy now, pay later, and your Splitit. So, is anyone offering financing on their website now? How's it going for you?
It's good. Pays a firm.
Yeah. Are you finding like you're making more sales because you offer it?
Yeah, I definitely find average order value goes up a lot higher. Somebody's like, oh, I'll throw so I sell kayaks, so they're like, oh, I'll throw this $1,300 trolling motor and all these accessories, because like a lot of I offer the 12 months 0%.
So they're not feeling it right now.
Yeah, and then it's 0 interest, so they're just spreading it out for 12 months.
Yeah, Randy.
I was just wondering which Afterpay or which one people are using. We have Shopify and they have a ShopPay, but it's only $1,000 limit. Which bikes, even the basic ones now, are a lot more over $1,000. So there are other options that you recommend.
Yeah, I can kind of break down how to think about when you're selecting your buy now, pay later. So the first decision point for you is to figure out, are you selling big things or small things, right? If you're selling a lot of small things, then a number like Klarna, the Afterpays, the Quad Pays are really great for the small dollar items, right? And they tend to be targeted at consumers who, frankly, are using it as a replacement for a credit card, right? And so instead of that, they maybe have been burned by the Visa credit cards in the past, and they're like, forget it, I'm not going back there. And so they use this as an alternative to financing.